The political pamphlet was the most popular form of literature of the day. Transitioning from the Puritan beliefs and ideas, the new enlightened people, the new revolutionized society, didn't have anything to write about. So the most important thing they were considering was to gain their independence after the historical events that took place. They started arousing people's awareness through the political writings, and it really paid off because people were reading and they were feeling the necessity for them to ask for their rights to live free and to start a new dependent nation of their own. Thomas Paine was very clever. He focused on the idea of American exceptionalism, where he highlighted the aspect of the exceptional American individual, a person who is exceptional from the other nations, a person who is exceptional from the other people, Europeans mainly and British in particular. So he needed to be democratically dependent. He needed to be free, and he needed to live in a continent where Britain is no longer ruling it. The idea of exceptionalism went hand in hand with education as well, because they focused on the educational system, and it is one of the most popular things in American society today, because they pay much attention to education even nowadays. The idea of education flourished with the famous Benjamin Rush, who was a doctor, where he emphasized on the aspect of Republican machines. He considered that American education must teach the values of patriotism, sobriety, and industry, as well as liberal arts, meaning history, language, literature, politics, and philosophy. Those areas of study, which means mainly, or also known mainly as the humanities, were of a higher significance, because through history and through learning politics and philosophy, they believe that they can create the idea of, or the kind of type, the model of the American individual. According to Rush, he believed that students must be taught the sense of belonging, because national community was important and nationalism was significant. He explained that focusing or succeeding in academics does not mean to succeed for oneself, but it meant that succeeding in academics means that this student, this exceptional American man, will explore and use his talents and potential to develop and prosper his society. So the aspect of citizenry was there, and the idea of nationhood was really rooted in the American belief of the time. Language was a significant aspects because they believe that they were really using different accents and different languages. And of course, the American society of the time was a melting pot where every culture, every society met there. People from all over the world were immigrating, and different accents started to emerge. Here, the famous Noah Webster was the first one to suggest and create the American English dictionary in order to strengthen that idea of nationalism and patriotism, claiming that American society was already different from the British one and they needed to really separate themselves linguistically and politically as well as geographically. Speaking of geographics, the American Geography book by Jedediah Morse was another landmark because he focused on teaching young children and primary school learners the different parts of the American continent, focusing on the aspect of these terms, continent versus island, suggesting that America as a vast, exceptional continent should never be ruled by a small, insignificant islands such as England or Britain. Jedediah Morse and Noah Webster helped enriching that aspect of nationhood in the American life because according to them all that reflected the cultural, political and historical elements in order to be able to create the national character they needed to emphasize on and bring into existence to claim for the independence. Moving now to speak about fiction, of course, why would I speak about the American exceptionalism and nationalism and patriotism, economics, society, culture, and language or geography? Of course, all this is important because it's from where it's from there that all the ideas in or stories of literature emerged. American literature didn't exist before. It was only about religion, about God, about preaching and the church. Poetry was just limited to dealing with God and his holy book, the Bible. Nothing was about entertainment, nothing was fictional. Some writers were clever enough, brave enough to start and challenge the European, British, well-known writers of the era.